Hi everyone, welcome from cloudy Hollywood and cloudy Berlin. My name is Fran Healy. I want to talk to a very good friend of mine, a wonderful guy and brilliant actor and kind of all-round cool dude, Daniel Brühl. Danny, how you doing, man?
I'm well, Franny.
Danny and
Thanks for
Franny.
inviting me to this
Yeah, well,
conversation. It
yeah,
feels strange to have this kind of conversation. I think we never had this before in our lives.
no, no, we generally we're talking about we talk about football, girls, drink, drugs, just all the things the boys talk about. We never talk about any arty farty things. We're here to talk about the joys of cinema and I think a good place to start would maybe be to ask you, Danny, what's your first memory of I mean your really earliest memory of that experience going into that dark room and the lights going down and what was your first experience?
I'd say the first one that really blew me away was the experience watching Lawrence of Arabia with my dad um, in an old 1950s cinema in Cologne in West Germany, where I grew up. And they had this huge screen, and it was a 70 millimeter projection, back in the days.
Mhm.
And I remember how impressed I was by everything, by the imagery, by that scope, by the canvas, by these landscapes and the battle scenes, the adventure, Peter O'Toole's blue eyes, and then that heroic tale of a soldier who then switches sides and fraternizes with the Arabs and becomes the hero. And so I was so moved and mesmerized by everything I saw. And and experiencing that with my dad, who used to be a filmmaker himself, who did a lot of documentaries and worked for German television, and could explain me a lot of things afterwards when we went home. I said, how do you do this? And so he explained to me a couple of things. It was a wonderful experience. And it might have been the moment in which I thought, oh, I'm really fascinated by this art form. And somehow I already dreamt of maybe, ending up doing something within the realm of cinema. Not necessarily as an actor, but I thought this is great.
So this was the moment when you maybe feel that your taper was lit.
Yeah,
How old were you at that point?
I was, I think I was 12. And then the next cinematic experience, although consumed watching television, was when I got my first VHS player when I was 15. And again, I got all the films that my father recommended. So I started watching all these great Italian and French films of the 60s, 70s.
Oh,
And that was really the moment, watching, Belmondo or Mastroianni or Delon. I thought, oh, I want to become a film actor. And I tried to look as cool as them in front of the mirror. It never really worked. But still, that was the final moment when it made click. And I thought, like, yes, this is what I want to do.
wow. And
Mm.
so when was that around? Was you were 15, you got that, and then this experience of, like, for me, going into that place, I remember, oh my gosh, I remember really early, I was 4, and I went to see, those stop motion animation films that were like
Yeah.
Sinbad the Sailor? They were like swashbuckling adventures where it had monsters and it was like the mythology stuff with
Yeah.
Medusas and all that, and skeletons that come to life and do sword fights. He
Yeah.
recently, I saw, I think he passed away. That guy that did those films, quite maybe this year or last year. But I remember that was the film I went to see first, and we had to leave in the middle of it
Because you were
because
so scared.
I think I was. I think
Okay.
the size of these giant skeletons, and so that was my first thing, and my second memory, or one of these long riding memories, is going to the cinema and always needing to go to the toilet, like right in the right in the middle of the, and my mom or whoever's with me just going, oh my God. You know, and I went like maybe 4 times because I would sit with a big thing of Coca-Cola and go
Yeah.
and then be like, that was it. I think that, you know, when we're young, these are the moments when we're most impressionable.
Yeah.
You know, when we're sort of we don't see there's anything that can, we like, you go and see Superman, you come home and you think you're Superman, or
Yeah.
you know, that's, anything's possible. And as you get older, you see, oh right, I can't, the restrictions come in, and you go off and do other things, and
Right.
cinema,
Yeah.
cinema's this thing that has been there throughout my life, all the
Yeah.
way through it. What's your, like, when you go to see a movie, what is your, like, what's your favorite part of that experience?
It still is like in childhood days when the lights when it gets dark, you know, when the lights are dimmed, you know, and when it starts, that ceremonial thing, you know, of now it's getting serious. And and it's entering like a space and time capsule. The cinema is really a magical place where you get hypnotized for 2 hours or 3 hours or whatever,
Yeah.
along with some other strangers, and you're having this same experience, and you can escape this world, and you're invited to alternate worlds and universes and realities, and it can be so diverse, and it stimulates your senses, your head, your heart, your guts, and the experiences can differ so much. It can make you cry, it can make you laugh, it can make you hate someone, it can make you, you know, scared. It's such a complex art form, and it keeps on fascinating me. And I think nowadays it's so important to save that experience, because I want my children, I want my boys to have the same experiences. We know, we all know, you know, how hard it is and how much cinema is struggling. But it is painful to know that, you know, young people are watching cinema movies that are made for the huge canvas on their, you know, smartphones and on their laptops. You know, it is, you cannot compare it to anything else. Even I, like you, I have a Beamer, a good one, and I have a screen at home and a good sound system, but it is not the same.
No.
Not at all. You know, you cannot beat the experience of going to that dark cave or sacred temple or whatever you want to call it. So we have to fight for cinema.
Do you
And also,
remember?
I want to ask you something, because since I know that your band name was inspired by an iconic film, I just wondered yesterday when I knew that we had this conversation, if there's any other songs, or how much your songwriting was influenced every now and then, maybe by cinema, by films.
Everything is inspired by. I wanted to. This is what I wanted to do. I didn't know though that you had to. I didn't know there was a place you could go, like, to learn how to make. I didn't know there was a film school. I only barely knew there was like a drama school, because the RSMD was, which is the Royal Scottish is it music and drama school, was down the hill from the art school. I only kind of picked that up later on, but too late, and I didn't know there was any such thing as a film school. So I've got that in me. I'm a very visual person. I'm constantly, you know, I went to art school as a painter. Everything was visual. My songs are very visual, and they're quite cinematic sounding a lot of the time. and very descriptive, sometimes maybe overly so. And so it's almost like it's like I've got a blindfold on. I was
Uh-huh.
given a blindfold, and I was not only allowed to express through. I had one of my senses kind of chopped off. Weirdly,
Uh-huh.
recently, because I've been directing all the videos for the band, I've been sort of getting to exercise that muscle a little bit more, and I love it.
Mhm.
I mean, whether or not it leads to, I think I'd love to make a short movie, or we've talked about it before, but I would never do it unless I had a really, really good reason to do it, a good idea. But
Mhm.
yeah, all of my stuff is, I'm a frustrated filmmaker. I think,
Yeah.
you know what it is. I think it's about storytelling. So
Yeah.
I'm a storyteller. You're a storyteller. I was thinking the other day that all of the people I know and I'm closest to are all storytellers, and all of the people I've discarded over the
Yeah.
years are not. And
Yeah.
and you do it, but just automatically, because I think stories are where stories are like the bedrock of society.
Yeah.
It's where you pass on experience. It's where you know, oh, something really amazing happened yesterday. Like, for instance, I was sitting with Clay, who is another storyteller. I went to take my cat. This is going slightly off piste. I went to take my cat to the vet yesterday, and I was turning into the street. And this is at 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
6:30. I was turning into the street where the car park is, and coming towards me with the roof down in uh, an old Chevrolet, like from the 60s, beautiful, like, kind of thing, with these two, like, gangbanger guys driving it with black shades on, was Danny Trejo. You know, the guy, he's in the back of the car with his top off, doing this and going like this. Nobody's filming him. Nobody was filming him. He's in the back of the car, and he drove past me, and like driving up the road. And I'm like, what is going on? But just weird shit happens, and you
That's
get,
LA.
yeah, you get excited. You get excited, and I do as well, to tell a story. Like, oh,
Yeah.
you'll never know what happened to me yesterday. And in a funny way, like, this is kind of what movies are all about, except they are, like you say, they're amped up. I, like I say, I went to art school, and I'm a musician, and I make songs, but cinema is everything. It is every industry in one industry. You
Yeah.
have, if you're an electrician, you can work in the movie industry. If you're a plumber, you can work in the movie industry. If
Yeah.
you work with
Yeah.
animals, you can. If you're, it has everything, and everyone
Yeah.
goes there. When I came to visit you on the set of some movie here, you were doing some film, and it was, I still get a buzz out of that feeling of
Yeah.
being behind the screen. I always wondered, when you look at a TV or a cinema screen, I always imagine, like, what's on the other, like, what's around the
Yeah.
edge of it that I can't
Yeah.
see. And when you go
Yeah.
to a set, it's just
Yeah.
marvelous.
And when it's like a well-oiled machine, it's like a Swiss watch, because every single piece um, is important, So
Yeah,
that feel of real teamwork when
hmm,
it works
yeah,
uh, is wonderful.
hmm,
Um, that's why, as you know, I eventually decided to tell my own story,
I
and
know.
I did my shot my debut film during the pandemic last year. But it was the most fulfilling experience I ever had. I mean, we talked about this
A
um,
lot.
extensively since the beginning. I decided doing it. I remember you said,
I told you
"Watch
to do a
out,
short
do a
film.
short film first," which was a wise advice.
Well, not really.
No, no, no. It was. It
You
was.
made a really
Um,
amazing film. By the way, can I interrupt? This film that Danny is made last year, and it's out this year. It is so good.
oh,
It's amazing, man. But then again, I forget are you're in it. You're soaked in cinema. and
Yeah.
you've got all of this to, so carry on. It must have been an amazing thing to do.
I appreciate, I know, I know that you know that your opinion was very important to me when you texted me after watching. No, because we have been in such intense creative exchange over these last years, and I know how picky you are, and how distinctive your taste is. So I was really thank you for that. No, it was just to be not excluded by anything in that fascinating journey of, you know, making a film, of that whole process, was so rewarding, because it was based on an idea, and then you get to work with someone who writes brilliantly. So I was playing ping pong with the writer, and was involved. Let's say I co-wrote. Actually, he wrote it, but I could always, you know, feed him with some ideas, and he was able to, you know, transform them, filter them, and so forth, and then to execute, to shoot it, but to really decide what size do I want to have, what do I want to do with the DOP and with everything else, to be the captain on the ship whilst you're shooting it, and then edit it, you know, which is like if you have a concert, you know, you can decide the how do you say, partitura, no? It's like really you're deciding the tempo of it. Then mixing it was a mind-blowing experience, because the film stands there, it's done, and then you add the subtleties, and that's what, again, in your field, when the acoustic level comes in, you know, and you have the visual part, but then how much a scene has changed if you decide that you hear a church bell in the back, or, you know, whatever it is, and film music. Have you ever done film music score?
I don't want to do film music. I would never do that, because it would upset me, because I'd rather do a film than do the music.
Well, I used one of your songs.
Yeah, that's
right. A tune. Yeah.
But this thing about film and music, like we know Tom Tickver.
Yeah.
He makes the music to the film before he makes the film.
Yeah.
What's with that? He actually sits and makes. So he doesn't just direct. He composes the thing with the. I found that to be like, wow, that kind of screwed my mind a bit. But to pull it into the room again. You know, when you first, what was the first film you were in? You acted in?
Well, that was, I've done some TV movies and series I started when I was 15. But the first real film that I did was called The White Noise. That's the first one I was really proud of. And I think I was 20. My
question is this: when you did that film, when you went into the premiere and you sat and the lights went down and you looked up there and it was you suddenly in this giant, massive, big screen, how did that feel for you to see yourself in that, and suddenly to rewind to sort of kick back to when you were 12 years old with your papa, and then to fast forward 8 years to when you're 20, suddenly you're on the screen? How did that feel? Would that make you feel
scary? Like? I was shit scared, nervous. It was a small festival here in Germany, but still an important indie festival. So for me, obviously, that was a big thing. And to sit there with other people and to not know how the reactions will be like. I mean, I had seen it beforehand, but also only on screens and television. It was the first one that I actually saw my face on a big screen. That is true. So mind-blowing. Up until now, it is a weird experience, I guess, for every actor, unless you're super vain and you think like, oh, look at this guy. You know, you think like, it takes me 3 times. And then I finally see the whole movie. And I also look at the other guys next to me, because you're just concerned about yourself, your voice, the way you act certain scenes. You're happy with some, hopefully, and very unhappy with others. There's always moments that you would like to change, that you're not fully satisfied with. It still happens in every movie, in every scene. And again, then I also thought, oh wow, they have chosen this take. Why didn't they choose the other one? And the close-up I did was so brilliant. Why did they cut it now? So, so all these issues. And again, it was so good to finally be in the position I'm gonna decide.
Finally.
And now you understand why actors shouldn't go to the editing room, because it's frustrating, it's
But here's the thing is, with this film that you just did, there is a reason why that was good, because you've had all this experience and just sitting back and watching people making sometimes the right decision, sometimes the wrong decision, that everything that you see on that screen went through your filter for the very first time. And going back, when we were all through the years, we talked about those moments. And when you were talking about, this idea, you're sitting there and you see you're checking yourself out. Has there been any moment where you've been in a cinema? You don't need to say what film, because I would not say what film. But has there been a moment where you've been made so uncomfortable to be there? You've gone, oh, I want, because this is, as a film viewer, I always think, oh my God, that was an absolute stinker of a movie. All those actors must be like wanting to kill themselves.
And then doing promotion. That's the worst part. That is the worst part. If you have to sell it, you have this rotten carpet. You have to sell this shit. That's terrible. That's soul destroying. It's part of the game. You have to be professional. But God, I have sat in hotel rooms afterwards with maybe a good single malt whiskey and thinking like, what the hell happened to this film? Why did I accept to do it in the first place? And then looking back, I still know in each case why. And money. And actually, to be honest, I don't want to sound too, like someone who desperately tries to see everything optimistic, but still, I think you also have to have these failures, because it cannot be in almost any career. Maybe not in Marlon Brando's or whatever. There are those stinkers, and it's just part of the game. It's also the fascination, because it's unpredictable. You never know if it's going to work out or not. Even if you have a good script, even if you have a talented filmmaker, so much can happen on the way. But God, yes, there are stinkers in my life.
And do you have this? Let me think of how to. So you do the stinker. I would say to look on the silver lining of it, the performance that you then have to put into the interview to follow it when you're promoting it, to go, oh, that's real acting. You really have to act in.
Oh yeah. Better acting than in the movie.
It's so true though. I could never.
It's tough.
I could never do that.
Yeah.
I could never ever do that.
Yeah.
It just
something I realized now, because I'm getting older. Some of the choices I made, I understand why I did it back in the days, but somehow it was sometimes a compromise, because I thought it could work out with changes, or it won't be that bad. And I think that the older I get, the less I can do it. And I think we also talked about music and cinema, and about the formulas, I get so many scripts that read so incredibly predictable and formulaic. this is, for example, something that I have more and more a real problem with, because it's just it just doesn't do anything to me anymore. If you use the formula, which at the end of the day you often have to do, you have to be so clever to do it so distinctively and differently that you can hide the formula. But there's so many scripts where you start reading it and you know exactly what's going to happen at page 10 and 15 and 50 and 90. It's shocking. It's like songs of bands that we would not mention here, that I know you really like, who also use, this shameless formula, and it always sounds the same.
Well, this is there's like a, and this is an interesting segue into two different things that you do as well, which is movies that are art. I mean, all movies are art in a sense, because there's so much it's not real, it's like coming from an imagination and going into, but you know what I mean, there's commercial movies, and there's movies that are clearly, they want to make a little bit of money, but this is someone's passion, it's someone's so that the budgets are lower, the expectations are lower, and you've done both kinds. You've done from Goodbye Lenin to the Marvel which are Martin Scorsese said something not so nice about the Marvel films. I disagreed with him, actually, because
I do too. I respect, I mean, you can, obviously I respect Martin Scorsese, and it's his absolute right to dislike it profoundly. And I get it. But I also disagree. But it depends on, it's like with music with me. I'm a pop culture fan, and to me, this is what they do is entertainment and pop, but on the highest level. And it is smart if you let yourself be, if you want to enter that world, if you're curious and if you like it, then you will realize that also the people behind it and the way they tell it is actually very smart, and it is complex, and it is very entertaining. So I don't have any problem with that. But
because and it's, the thing is, when you the closer you get to it, then you can start seeing differences. But it is cinema, and cinema is buying a ticket, getting your popcorn, going into a room and being transported to another, like you said before at the beginning, a time machine, like being transported to another time or place to make you feel a certain feeling, whether it be basic or not. And that goes for, going to see Taxi Driver, where you get into the mind of this guy, and it's almost like a Hitchcock film in the way it rolls out. But it's not, and it's still as it transports you. You come out of that film feeling, a little bit different. I think the Marvel films and all those kind of action genre films, like I mean, you could go to, like, talk about a Die Hard film. They're kind of schlocky and stuff, but the scale of them is so cinematic. It's, oh my God, they've just blown up a massive building. Wow. And
it is so tough and difficult to make those. I mean, you have to be able to shoot it. And if you think of, Spielberg, how much he was criticized by certain people, and as we all know, he's a master of cinema. So, but this is and that's also the diversity. This is what I love, and I didn't want to restrict myself. Thank God my taste is wide open, and I can enjoy doing it. And it's not a money job only, but I really do enjoy the experience. I have a lot of fun and I learn. And it invites you to, it's like going to a Luna Park, going to a circus. You act in a different way and you can let loose. You know, it doesn't feel restrictive at all. I mean, my last experience with them is you wear this comic book purple coat, you wear I mean, this is great. You feel like a 12-year-old again. But you have to work. You have to deliver. It's not easy, you know. Everybody who thinks like, yeah, it's just, you know, you just show up to get the cash. But it's not. It's not about that.
The experience of doing these big, giant, marvelly things and doing the small thing. You know, when you do the Goodbye Lenin and you walking down the street with an actor, ladies and gentlemen, is quite an experience
Mm.
because the way an actor looks, everyone thinks they know you, and you're
Mm.
because they see you in that dark room on that screen and they look at you. And luckily for you, Danny, you play a lot of really nice, likable characters. Even in the Marvel film, your character's complex and likable. And I got to, you know, you walk down the street with you, and people are like, hey, you know, every 5 steps. And especially when I took Danny to, we picked my son up from school, and it
I,
was just, it was what was that like? It was just all these kids like they were just so impressed
yeah.
by the fact
To
that
me, it made my day because I thought like these 12-year-olds still recognize me. I mean, this is just yeah.
the
And
fans.
you know, because my heart is still burning for the art house cinema, as you know. That's where I come from, and I'm still doing it. But then it feels good every now and then if you are in these bigger things, because then all of a sudden you see the range, you see the scale. My nephew, for the first time, was taking me seriously because he saw me on that show. You know, before that he was like, oh yeah, oh God, you did these boring films about God knows what. And then, so, and for you, what is more interesting to be at, I don't know, Glastonbury, or to play in a little Glaswegian pub?
It's like you do all of it, and it's all
Yeah,
good because you'll find great stuff in all of it. And um and and I think that everyone that I know thinks that if you're a professional musician or a professional anything, you're completely adaptable. You're like one of those camping knives that you just you can
yeah.
work into the situation. I wanted to ask, what's your so we talk about this transportive thing. You talked about Lawrence of Arabia. Is there a movie that you have seen in your life so far? Like, do you have like a favorite film? I know that's a bit, but do you have a favorite film? I'm going to ask you favorite film first, and then a favorite director maybe second. But what's your favorite film or films that you remember?
Again, I think it it still is probably um, a film that I watched on this VHS player back in the days, and I've watched it multiple times. And you've been to my place. I have 2 or 3 film posters of Rocco and his brothers, which is a great film by Visconti
Mhm.
with yeah, Alain Delon and Claudia Cardinale and Girardot, and it is, you know, one of these great timeless neo-realistic films from Italy about a family moving from the poor south to the industrial modern north, and the family cohesion, which is so important in Italy. And maybe I related to it because I'm half Spanish and I know how important family in Southern Europe is, then falls apart and is destroyed eventually because of all the drama that happens. And also the structure was interesting in these chapters, and then each you know brother gets his chapter in the movie, and especially Simone and Rocco have this rivalry and jealousy, and they fight over a woman, and there's this love-hatred relationship between brothers, and it's about guilt and murder and love, and it's so beautifully acted and so real that that I, for example, when I the cool films at the time when I went to the cinema and that I enjoyed so much were, for example, Pulp Fiction or Fasten from Winterberg. But I really enjoyed these black and white films if they did not age, like Truffaut's Quatre Cents Coups or whatever, or the Godard films, you know, some of them. If the films manage not to age, and I'm also very proud if I would have to think if a few, apart from the stinkers I've done, if a couple of movies have not aged and will not age in the future, that will make me at the end of my life or career very, very proud and happy. Because again, this is also something that you cannot control. Some of these films are very fashionable and are wonderful at the moment, and then they look kind of old after a couple of years or a decade or so or longer. And so to me, it is always mind-blowing if a story has been put together and probably without knowing, without being able to control it, and you have something there that stays there forever. Like and that is the beauty about film, because nobody can take that away from you. It's there, and it's very nice if after 20 years, I mean, Goodbye Lenin was one of those. I mean, there's still people who
An evergreen.
Who is an evergreen. And I've been to so many remote places where all of a sudden, which first, with being 43, I take it as a compliment that I still look like this 20-year-old puppy. But also the fact that the people are still enjoying it and still watching it is nice.
Yeah. And
it's like with your songs. I sent you the video of us, my boys, listening to your song in the car the other day.
I know it's
Evergreen. When I was a teenager, and I would be interested what your experiences were like, but there were some of these films that also made you want to change your style and gave you that kick and that hype, you know. And talking about, you know, there were two cult films. One of them from Scotland was Trainspotting.
Oh God.
And the other one was Lenin, Kassovitz with Vincent Cassel, this black and white film about the three underdog guys in living in the suburbs of Paris.
Oh yeah.
You know, great film. And then there was Sweet 16, also a Scottish film. There was that wave of Ken Loach. There was that wave of, you know, working class films and kids that you felt for, that you fell in love with, you know. And then you went home and you wanted to get the sneaker or the base cap or the t-shirt, you know. That's, and so it wasn't only music, but the films that, you know, that created this, you know, that kick and that and became a cult eventually, you know. So yeah, I was just thinking, I had a flashback. Maybe how did you enjoy, what were your films when in teenage days?
Oh my God. Well, a film that I completely bent my mind, and I just couldn't get enough of, and I still think is as far as storytelling and filmmaking goes and cinema goes, was Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Robert Zemeckis is just his attention to detail and his choice of actors. So for instance, this idea of Eric Stoltz being Marty McFly, you know that?
Yeah.
Eric Stoltz was going to be Marty McFly, and there's scenes with him as Marty McFly, and it's so wrong. It's absolutely wrong. He was the wrong guy, and Zemeckis had the balls to stop the film, change the actor. I mean, they were right into it. They were like 70% into the film.
Oh man, imagine the cojones it takes to do this, huh? Yeah. Like, oh, yeah.
So that film, when I saw that film, and I was just like, oh my God, Michael J. Fox, Marty McFly, that was like, I want to be him. right? And I
yeah,
wanted the shoes. I wanted they call it a life preserver, but it was
yeah,
like body warmer. I just wanted to be them.
yeah,
And but the funny thing is, like I weirdly did sort of my whole life in a way became because I
yeah,
got like the first guitar I got was that big red guitar,
yeah,
right? And I couldn't play it, so I gave it to Andy Dunlop in the band because he could control it because these guitars are really like feedback monsters. And then when we got really big and successful, uh my first car was like his car at the end of, you
oh
know, when he
really?
opens up the, I didn't realize this, you know, and recently when in LA, I took Clay a couple of years ago when we first moved here. We just went for a little drive. We went to visit Stan Laurel's grave
Oh
uh,
wow,
at the cemetery, which is literally over the hill. We're big fans of Laurel and Hardy,
yeah,
and and
was
then
born on the same day like me. That always makes me proud.
who?
16th of
Stan
June,
Laurel.
I think so.
Stan Laurel.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
wow. So I love you even more now, Danny.
Oh,
Uh,
yes.
that's hard to do. So we went there, and then we also I wanted to take him to the scene, the where ET was shot, the house,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
but I accidentally put in the address for Marty McFly's house in Back to the Future. That road where the dot goes, where we're going, we don't need road. And we sort of parked outside this house, and I'm like, oh my god, there's that. These movies are
Yeah.
they can just go right into your DNA and change
Yeah.
you. They can
Yeah.
make you believe that you can do anything. And I think
Yeah.
if people grow up and they lose that,
Yeah.
and they go to movies to rekindle it a little bit,
Yeah.
just to blow on the embers of their childhood,
Yeah.
blow on the embers of their
Yeah.
imagination. And that's the absolute I think the magic of
Yeah.
cinema, you know.
I remember how embarrassing it was that I managed to sneak into a film with Michael J. Fox. It was called Teen Wolf, I think. And I had sort of my first dates. We were coupled, but I was really low, and I was so scared by the film when he started to get these basketball scenes when he. But of course, I couldn't show.
I do yourself. That's
Yeah.
fun.
Oh God, Teen Wolf. Yeah.
One last question, and I think we can wrap it up. That I would want to hear your opinion on is, where do you see that experience? Bearing in mind we've talked about how how simple cinema is as an experience. You sit in a chair and you watch this big screen, and then it's like, and you're transported. And they've added now Dolby Atmos, and we've gone 3D and whatever. Where do you see the future of cinema? Do you see it remaining as it is, or do you see something changing in any way? Or what's your thoughts about the future of that experience? Do you think it's going to be
Oh.
the same forever?
Oof. I really don't know. I think we are in a bit of we're in a valley right now. And, the fascination that it used to have is fading. It doesn't, it will not fully disappear. I'm absolutely certain of that. But it is a smaller amount of people who will be responsible to save it, and then eventually in I don't know when in the future it'll come back. I'm pretty sure that it will have its revival, but for now, we have to make sure that even if you collaborate with the streamers, because they're really in command, um, they have to be fairer, and to commit themselves to give the films a longer life in cinema, which, step by step, it will it will be less and less, but you still want to guarantee that certain films are still made and shot as a cinema film on that scale, and then at least it has its 4 weeks or 2 weeks in a cinema, and then people can decide whether they watch it on their laptop or at home on their television, or I don't know. And the festivals are doing their best, like the one in Scotland, in Edinburgh, to protect and to support cinema. But these are not the best days for this
For
art
everything,
form.
it's not the
They
best.
really are not. I mean,
Yeah.
so
It's like, I really feel with music, with art, it's like a sine wave. You kind of get your up points and then your peaks, and then it comes down again. But it will always, it ebbs and it flows, and
yeah,
you never know. That's the thing. You never know when you're going to go into that dark room,
yeah,
see the next, in my case, Back to the Future or
yeah,
Taxi Driver, or the next Lawrence of Arabia.
yeah,
Because as long as there's humans on the planet, there will be storytellers, and some of them will choose to tell that story in you know,
yeah,
that dark room, and some will choose to go elsewhere. But
yeah,
I don't know. I'm hopeful. What about you?
yeah. I am too.
You
Yeah.
yeah.
Let's continue.
Well, yes, to be continued. So, guys,
That
Danny,
is a
thank
happy
you so
end.
much. Yeah, thank you so much, and man, good luck with your movie. I am very impressed. I'm still thinking about it as well. It's a film of its time, and it's a very original story, and no one thought of making, which is great. So anyone uh, that wants to see a great movie, go and see. Is it Next Door? Is that what it's called
Next
in
one. It'll be
English?
released in England and Ireland. Scotland, it's with Curzon is the distributor. So yeah, hopefully a few people will go and
Go
see
and
it.
see it. Yeah, go into that dark
And I
room.
will be hiking in Scotland with a friend for the
Wow.
first time in my life in September. So I will call you and you will
Yeah.
have to give me advice.
And if you see Danny like hitchhiking, pull over, pull over, pull over. Take care.
That was nice.
Love.
Mwah.